The Sony A7C was released almost 2 years ago, back in October of 2020. It was made to be the little brother of the incredibly popular Sony A7 III, but included a few new features such as better autofocus, smaller compact design, and also a flippy screen. But with newer cameras such as the Sony A7S III and more recently the Sony A7 IV, is the A7C still worth it almost 2 years later? That's what we're going to have a look at in this video. Let's get into it. Very quickly, before we go any further, if you are new here to this channel, my name is Scott Edwards. I make all sorts of photography, video and creativity related videos, so if they are the sorts of things you are interested in, consider clicking that little subscribe button just down below there and come and be a part of this community. The Sony A7C shoots 4K video up to 30 frames a second, and the footage in this as well is downsampled from 6K, which most Sony cameras tend to do, and that means that the footage looks incredibly sharp in 4K. When this was released back in 2020, there were still quite a lot of people recording things in 1080 or full HD, so this at the time was again a little bit of a jump above other cameras. However, now looking back to it, or where we are now, I do wish it had slightly more. I wish it would record 4K video up to 60 frames a second, for example, because I'm using the Canon R6 right now to shoot this video. This is the camera I use at work. When I go back to shooting 1080 in 60 frames a second, there is a huge difference between the two. So I would like 4K 60 in this, but obviously this was a camera released 2 years ago, and Sony have since come out with the A7S III and the A7 IV, which are capable of shooting 4K 60, and in the A7S III's case, 4K 120. If you want to shoot in the higher frame rates such as 60 frames a second or 120 frames a second, you are going to be limited to 1080 with the A7C. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the footage from this little compact camera, it's not a compact camera, it's a full frame camera. Footage filmed in 1080p on this little Sony A7C still looks absolutely brilliant, and if you're just making YouTube videos or videos for the internet, you're not going to have a problem filming in 1080, and you also get the added bonus of smaller file sizes, whereas if you're shooting 4K 60 or 120, you're going to end up with some massive file sizes. So 1080p going to be much easier to edit, take up less space, and be easier on your computer as well. The footage still looks great. It's just with cameras being updated more recently, you do start to notice the gap between cameras like this that are a couple of years old. And I think even if this only had 4K 60 frames a second, I would use that way more than I would the 120 frames a second, because 4K 60 just looks absolutely brilliant. It's just a bit of a shame it doesn't have it. Maybe we'll get that on an updated A7C. A7C 2? Who knows? Possibly? Not sure. Being able to shoot in log on the Sony A7C using S-Log 2 and 3 is absolutely brilliant as well. And that's one thing that I do really like about Sony cameras in general, is on all of their cameras they will give you loads of different picture profiles to choose from, whereas other manufacturers such as Canon, you have to buy the higher end cameras to be able to use Canon log, which again I'm filming this in right now. I'm using C-Log to film this. And what log allows you to do is to capture a greater dynamic range within the image, so that then when it comes to editing the image, you can then have more room to maneuver the picture around to be able to get the desired look for your video. Now I tend to use S-Log 2 when I'm recording with the Sony A7C, because the Sony A7C films in 8-bit colour, and what that means is you do have room to maneuver your colours around, but it will break up a lot quicker than if you were filming with a camera that shoots 10-bit colour. And the reason I choose S-Log 2 over S-Log 3 is S-Log 3 requires a lot more manoeuvring of the colours because it is a much flatter picture profile. So by choosing S-Log 2, I'm still working within the boundaries of S-Log 2 to be able to get a good dynamic range and a good looking image in the final product. So if you are shooting log on the Sony A7C, I probably would shoot in S-Log 2 for that reason, and save S-Log 3 for a camera with 10-bit colour such as the A7 IV or the Sony A7S III. So overall for video, if you are making internet videos, YouTube videos, videos for social media, I would highly recommend the Sony A7C, even now almost 2 years later after its release, because it will have you covered in every way. It can shoot 4K video, you've got all the slow motion capabilities with 120, and it's even got the flippy screen, which is essential if you're making videos like this, because you need to be able to frame your shot and be able to see what the camera is seeing. But it also makes it easier for photography as well, because you can get the camera in any position. If you're shooting down low, you can see what you need to on the screen. You can shoot in portrait, and you're not stuck with the screen there trying to do that. We've all been there. It's not easy if you're doing that with photography. Talking about photography, the A7C is brilliant for photography as well. In fact, it's just a solid all-round hybrid camera. It's got a 24 megapixel sensor, and that is perfect for most situations, whether you're taking pictures for social media. You can even shoot weddings with a 24 megapixel sensor camera, and that might not sound like a lot in today's day and age, but a common misconception about megapixels is the more megapixels, the better the camera, and that's just not the case at all. In fact, sometimes in the case of the Sony A7S III, for example, that's only got 12 megapixels, and that is capable of taking incredible photos. If you want to be able to blow your photos up really, really big, and I mean really big, or to be able to crop really far into some photos, then yes, you are going to need a camera with a higher megapixel count, such as something like this, like the Sony A7R II, and this has 44 megapixels, but it's a very high megapixel count compared to this, and that allows you to crop in and blow your pictures up much bigger than you will be able to with the smaller megapixel camera. However, 24 megapixels for social media is absolutely perfect. I've never had an issue with this. I've blown pictures up to A2 size, and I probably, if I wanted to, could blow them up even bigger. 24 megapixels is a really nice amount of pixels to have in a camera, because it's just a good balance between really high and really low. You're going to be able to crop in, you're going to be able to blow your pictures up. You're not going to have the same huge file sizes that you have with something like this, because you've got less megapixels. But what it also means is you're getting some of the capabilities of low light performance, because A7S III with 12 megapixels, as we all know, is the king in low light, and that is because it's got a low megapixel count. So this is like a nice balance between the two. Talking about low light, because it's got 24 megapixels, that again helps it with video in low light as well. So the fact this has 24 megapixels means it is a nice balance between the two for both photo and video, between lower megapixel count and a higher megapixel count. You'll be able to crop in, you'll be able to blow your photos up nice and big. You won't have a problem with this. It is just a brilliant little camera, and even 2 years later, I would definitely recommend it. There's a couple of things I would like to see in maybe an updated version, such as 4K 60, as I've already mentioned, but also maybe a fully functioning touchscreen, because you can only really use the touchscreen to tap to focus. You can't touch through the menu system or anything like that. You've got to use all of the dials on the back, which does seem a little bit old-fashioned. I've never quite got my head around that, and having used Canon more recently, I do really like the touchscreen for absolutely everything. So there are things that I don't like about it. There are things that I really, really do like about it. It is much more affordable than something like the A7 IV or the A7S III, and you're still getting some great features. The autofocus on this is absolutely brilliant. It will never lose you. As much as you move around, obviously I'm not using it right now, but if as much as you use this, I've never had it lose focus on me once in the 18 months I've owned it. It is absolutely brilliant. And if you're making YouTube videos with it as well, maybe you want to go and vlog with it, it is the perfect camera for that because it's nice and compact. Now, obviously I've not got a lens on it, but if I put on this Tamron 17 to 28mm lens, which is a really nice wide angle to vlog with, is even then, it's still not very big. It's a nice compact size. It's not gonna attract too much attention to you while you are out and about vlogging. And even if you put a microphone on the top, this is the Rode Video Micro, it's still not that big. It's just a nice little setup to be able to go out and take with you everywhere you go, to create vlogs, to capture memories. And I tend to use the ZV-1 for that because it is even more discreet. I can stick it in my pocket. But this again is absolutely perfect for vlogging and I love it. You got the flippy screen. I just recommend it so much even now. So if you are thinking of buying a camera in the back end of 2022 and you're not sure what to do, maybe you're getting into making YouTube videos, you want to start your own videography business, this is capable of doing all of that. I don't think it's a camera that most people will take much notice of because there are better versions out there, because it is 2 years old now. But even now, I would highly, highly recommend it. Yes, there might be a few features that you are maybe missing out on that you might want, but for the money, this is absolutely brilliant. And I would recommend it over the A7 III as well, because as great as the Sony A7 III was, and as popular as it still is, you're getting better autofocus in this, and you get the flippy screen. And it's all about the flippy screen. It's all about the flippy screen. Everyone loves a flippy screen. I've never heard one person talk badly about a flippy screen. Definitely recommend the Sony A7C in 2022. Let me know what cameras you're using to film your videos. Maybe you use Sony, maybe you use Canon, maybe you even use a Nikon. That's a joke. Nikon makes some great cameras too. But A7C, A7 IV, R6, R5, something completely different. Maybe you use a crop sensor camera. Let me know in the comments below. I love talking about cameras. If you like what you see on this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button just down below there. Give this video a thumbs up, and yeah, I'll see you very soon in the next one.